8 years have passed since the night my husband uncovered the truth about my affair with my boss. It was a night that fractured my world, a moment forever burned into my memory. At the time, I was married to Andrew. We had been together for nearly 10 years. Our marriage, while far from flawless, had its fair share of warmth, shared laughter, and dreams built together. Still, over time, tiny cracks began to show. Missed dinners, brief and strained conversations, a growing wall of silence between us that eventually became impossible to ignore. I had spent 5 years working at a respected marketing firm, and that's where I met Patrick, my manager. He carried himself with an effortless confidence and a charm that drew people in. In those days, when I felt unseen and unheard at home, his attention made me feel noticed again. What started as harmless chats, griping about clients or laughing over coffee, slowly shifted. Those talks turned into shared lunches, then late-night texts, and eventually, something more, a whirlwind of poor decisions and emotional escape. Deep down, I knew it was wrong. Every interaction with Patrick was heavy with guilt, but I told myself it was temporary, something I could stop whenever I chose. I was wrong. Andrew wasn't blind to the changes. He noticed the frequent late nights, the sudden need for business trips, the growing distance between us. He began to piece things together. One evening, I came home late again, and he was waiting. He had found the emails. Messages that left nothing to question. They were explicit, undeniable. I can still see his face in that moment, the shock, the heartbreak, the sheer weight of betrayal etched into every line. I didn't bother denying it. There was no point. The truth was in front of us. I had betrayed the one person who had always stood by me. Without a word, he left that night. He didn't come back for 2 days. When he finally returned, it was only to gather his belongings. He calmly told me he was filing for divorce, and he did, without delay. The months that followed blurred into a haze of shame, regret, and unbearable solitude. I took a leave from work. I couldn't face Patrick, nor could I pretend that anything was normal while everything inside me was crumbling. Eventually, I resigned. I couldn't handle the hushed office whispers, the sympathetic looks, or the cold stares. I relocated to a small apartment across the city, somewhere no one knew me. That anonymity felt like relief. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. We didn't have children, which simplified the legal process, but emotionally, it tore through me. Our families had been close for years. The fallout spread like wildfire. Friends picked sides. Some disappeared entirely. The isolation was crushing. But I had no one to blame but myself. After a while, I went back to work, this time at a modest local agency where no one had any knowledge of my past. On the surface, it was a clean slate, but the guilt lingered like a shadow that never left. I buried myself in work, desperate to drown out the self-hatred. It didn't help. Eventually, I started therapy. I needed to confront the deeper reasons behind my betrayal, not just the act itself, but what had driven me to it. In therapy, I began to understand that the affair wasn't the core issue. It was merely a reflection of deeper problems. Our marriage had been unraveling for a long time, and instead of confronting the pain with honesty and openness, I escaped into something that felt easier, a distraction that promised temporary comfort. Around that period, I heard through mutual friends that Andrew had started seeing someone new. Her name was Claire. From what I gathered, she was kind, steady, and everything I hadn't been in those last years of our marriage. About a year later, word got around that they had moved in together. 3 years after our divorce, I saw Andrew for the first time at a wedding of a friend we both knew. We exchanged polite small talk, but the air between us was heavy with unspoken memories. He seemed different, calmer, more at ease. Meanwhile, I still carried the emotional weight of everything I had done. That brief encounter spurred me to dig even deeper into my healing. I joined a support group, not just for those who had been cheated on, but also for those who had cheated. It opened my eyes. I wasn't alone in my failure, and hearing others share their stories helped me grasp the widespread pain caused by betrayal, both to others and to oneself. By the 5th year, I had found some stability, maybe even a fragile peace. A close friend and I started a small graphic design studio, something I had dreamed of for years. The growth was slow, but for the first time in ages, I felt like I was building something meaningful, something I could be proud of. Then came the engagement photos. Andrew and Claire had gotten engaged. The images flooded mutual friends' social media feeds, him beaming in a way I hadn't seen in years. When I saw those photos, a mix of emotions swept through me. I was happy for him. He truly deserved joy. But there was also sadness for the life that might have been, and regret because I knew I had no one to blame but myself. Still, I sent a card. Just a simple note with my congratulations and best wishes for their future. Nothing dramatic, just a gesture of goodwill. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. Andrew reached out. He thanked me for the card and asked if I'd be open to meeting for coffee. He made it clear it wasn't about reopening the past, but about finding closure. When we met, it was like seeing someone from a previous chapter of my life, a version of me that no longer existed. We talked, really talked, for the first time in years. We spoke about everything, what went wrong, what we had learned, and how far we had both come. He told me he had spent years angry, broken, and confused. But over time, he began to see that our downfall hadn't been the fault of just one person. He had his own regrets, about the times he ignored warning signs, or when he had taken our connection for granted. He wasn't excusing my choices, but he no longer saw me as the villain in the story. "I forgave you," he said, "not for your sake, but for mine." I couldn't carry that pain into the life I was trying to build. We left that cafe without promises, without trying to rekindle anything, just a quiet understanding. A kind of peace that had been missing for far too long. Today, 8 years later, I still run that little business. It's grown beyond what I ever imagined. I've started dating again, but this time, carefully. I understand now what I truly want in a partner: honesty, openness, responsibility. I won't pretend that the past doesn't still weigh on me. It does. But the burden is lighter now. I've learned that redemption doesn't mean forgetting what happened, it means becoming better because of it. I lost my marriage. I lost Andrew. But in the rubble, I uncovered something even more valuable, a deeper understanding of myself. And sometimes, that's the hardest and most important thing to find. Thank you for listening. If you found something meaningful in this story, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life journeys.